Chapter 05. A woo. Suddenly I heard a loud howl indicating the beginning of a battle in a goblin village. I ran, or more like bounced, towards the entrance of the village. Once I reached entrance I can see a pack of direwolves. Running towards us, they stopped about 100 before reaching the entrance. In front of 100 direwolves. After seeing this, goblins behind were trembling out of fear. They were so scared they can't even move. In a way it is good thing I don't have to worry about them. There was a single direwolf which far more stronger than other. It must be the alpha. All right, stop where you are, okay. I said to them, if you turn back now, I promise I won't do anything to you. Move away from here at once. Anyone who refused to comply I will kill him. As said that, it seems instead of running away they got angry and around 40 direwolves ran towards me at full speed. Alpha stayed behind, probably to gauge our strength. Well, I did say anyone who refused to comply will be killed, so before those wolves reach me I started barrage of water blade. I focused on their weak point and started kill them one by one in single hit. Within a few moments all of 40 direwolves were killed. Everyone was in a disbelief. No one moved a single inch. I am sure direwolves were worried about a new opponent who killed 40 of their kind. My eyes were still firmly upon the direwolf alpha. After a few moments to the goblins, he had disappeared, I assumed, but to me, he was ambling along at a yawn-worthy pace. Everything was going to plan. I had considered a few possible outcomes, and now one of them was playing out in front of me. These were animals, after all. Not ex-human like me. As direwolf's alpha reached near me he jumped, he moved his blade-like claws towards me, intending to cut me in half, but before he can do that, without moment of self-doubt, I launched a water blade at the alpha's head. It hit home. The head launched upward, and then gravity took it. I had killed the alpha, and more importantly, I made it look like a laugh. Listen, direwolves, your leader is dead. I will grant you one final choice. Submit to me or die. So how will they deal with that? Will their alpha's death drive them into such a frenzy that they'll bumrush me? I'd like to avoid that, if I could. I don't enjoy killing, but the remaining direwolves showed no sign of moving. Uh-oh, this isn't gonna be one of those. I'd sooner die than submit to the likes of you things, is it? 'Cause if it is, it's gonna be all-out war. I doubted we'd lose at this point, but I'd prefer it ended without a struggle. I was at the alpha's limp body. Nobody offered any objection. Then I swallowed the corpse. As was my right as victor, yeah. The Raphael's voice rang in my mind. Less than analysis complete. Mimic. Direwolf ability obtained. Direwolf intrinsic skills, keen smell, thought communication, and coercion, acquired. Greater than. Activating coercion, I spoke to them in a loud, guttural scream. ARHRR. Listen to me, I declared to them. Once, and only once, I will let this go unpunished. If you refuse to obey me, I bid you to leave here at once. Figured that'd be enough to make these dogs scamper off. I was wrong. We pledge our allegiance to you. Huh, what? Now they were kowtowing to me, although it looked more as if they were having a lie down for a nap. But regardless, they had apparently chosen submit, anyway. Maybe they'd been having a little thought communication conference about it while they were standing there like statues. It beats having to fight them, anyway. That, more or less, marked the official end of the battle at this goblin village. That's always the thing, though, isn't it? It's not the fight that's the hard part, it's all the goddamn cleanup afterward. Screw it. That's all for today, people. I'll think about it tomorrow, once everyone wakes up. For the time being, I ordered the dogs to go on standby around the village, and called it a night. Morning came. I had spent the previous night thinking, mostly. The conclusion I came up with: let the goblins take care of the direwolves. Perfect. I had healed the goblin who got injured in battle before I came to the village. They were all in rougher shape than I'd thought, skin slashed by teeth and claws, and some were sporting nasty-looking gashes with God knows what growing out of them. Consuming the wounded goblin closest to me, I sprayed some recovery potion on him, then hawked him back up. The elder prepared to say something to me, but he thought better of it as I worked my way down the row, swallowing, splattering, spitting out. We had a total of 72 goblins left in fighting shape. No casualties from yesterday. Meanwhile, we had 81 surviving direwolves parked outside the town fence, some wounded, but none so badly that a little recovery potion didn't prop them right back up. They could have recovered themselves, I reckoned, with their intrinsic healing skills. The morning began with me lining up the goblins who were awake. The children and elderly watched from the side. Next to me was the village elder. He wanted to help me out somehow, I guess, but there wasn't much an old goblin geezer could do for me. My personal aesthetic tastes remained unchanged from my human years. That would never change, even though I was transmogrified into a slime. There would be no charming village princess I could ride off into the sunset with. I'd probably have to wait a while for that. In front of this line of goblins, I summoned the direwolves. Okay, I began, from now on, I'm gonna have you all form pairs and live with each other, all right? The moment I finished speaking, the goblins and the direwolves began exchanging glances with whoever was in front of them. Slowly and meekly, they followed my order. Yesterday's enemy is today's friend, and all that. They had to learn that the hard way, but at least everyone was on board. Then I noticed something. Hang on, do any of these guys have names at all? How are they supposed to call for each other and stuff? What a pain in the ass. Elder, I said as I watched the pairing process unfold to my side, it's too inconvenient for me to refer to you and your people. I'd like to give names to you all. Would that be all right? Everyone must have heard me somehow. Right at the word names, every single one of them was locked onto me, even the non-fighting goblins, clearly thrown by this turn of events. Are you sure? The elder timidly asked. What's the big deal, huh? Why yeah, if it's not a problem, I'd like to give out some names. It was as if I'd simultaneously blown the minds of every goblin on the premises. Each one erupted into enthusiastic cheering. What the hell, it's as if they all just hit the lottery or something. If getting a name makes you that happy, why don't you just do it yourselves? It all seemed so simple to me back then. I started with the elder, asking him what his son's name was. He had been the sole named goblin in the village, now sadly passed. It was Rimuru, apparently. So I added AD on the end and named the elder Rimuru. No particular reason for it, it just sounded nice. If your son was here, I joked, you could have him state his name and just kinda add D to the end of it, ootsie. No one laughed. They thought I was serious. I cannot express my gratitude enough, he blubbered, for being granted permission to take on my son's name. Yeah, great, I'm just shooting from the hip here, you know. It was starting to make me feel a bit guilty, but what the hell. The goblin scout leader, meanwhile, I named Rimuru. I could have added a to the end of it, I suppose, but why make this more complicated than it had to be? Rimuru was fine enough that it made him kneel before me in prayer, as if this was the most emotional moment in his life. Sir Rimuru, the newly christened Rimuru plaintively asked, we are so appreciative of this, but, are you sure? About what? I mean, I am fully aware of the extent of your magical powers, Sir Rimuru, but, providing all of these names in one go. Will you be all right? What's he talking about? I'm just handing out names to folks. I replied. No problem, I don't think. Then I went back to it. Rimuru raised his eyebrows for a moment, but I paid him no further mind. Once I was done with the goblins, it was time to move on to the direwolves. Their new leader would be the son of the old one, just as strong and strong-willed as his father, and already looking every bit as stately. Peering into his gold-colored eyes, I thought for a moment. How about Ranga? That combines the Japanese characters for Storm and Fang into one peppy little word. Perfect. Cheap, maybe, but I rolled with it. I'm the Tempest, he's got fangs. Whatever came to mind first was best, I figured. This wasn't my forte. The moment I named him Ranga, I began to feel as if practically all the magicules flowing through my body were draining out of it. The sense of hollowness of the violent emptying of my innards was mind-blowing. What's going on? It was a fatigue like none I'd felt before. Less than reporting. Your body's remaining store of magic has gone below its acceptable threshold. Entering sleep mode. Expected to fully recover in 3 days. Greater than. Finally, the third day passed. Recovered. Despite depleting my magic earlier, I felt stronger and more magic-rich than I had before my little accident. Magic was the power to exert force upon the world, and the particles around me were the energy driving it. That seemed to be about the extent of it. Realizing I was awake, goblins began congregating around me. They were joined by the direwolves, who were streaming in from their outside base. Which was fine, but, hey, guys, have you all, gotten bigger? Less than notice. Due to naming monsters or evolved. Greater than. Really, they changed so much, and check out the wolves. I remembered them being a lot browner. Now their fur was straight on black, with a lustrous sheen. They had grown, too, with the bigger ones now pushing 9 or 10 feet in length. I didn't remember any of them being much longer than 6 feet before. My master, how it elates me to see you well once more. Holy, is this Ranga? What happened over the past 3 days? I was left to wonder that for myself as the cheering, howling monsters surrounded me. Monster evolution happens fast. I'd say they didn't grow so much as become completely different creatures. The tepid, void-like eyes of the goblins now shone brightly with the pale light of intelligence. And the females, yow, they actually kind of look like women now. It made me literally do a double take. These guys were like little imps a moment ago, maybe closer to baboons than humans, and now, well, to use their official terminology, the males were hobgoblins, and the females, goblinas, although the latter sounded pretty stupid to me. They had both evolved, and according to Rigurd, they had heard the so-called world language when they did something that all evolved creatures experienced. A very rare occurrence, and one that excited Rigurd to no end, judging by how he couldn't shut up about it. This wasn't entirely a happy thing for me, though. The female goblins had covered their entire bodies in rags before. Now, thanks to their evolution, the skimpy clothing allowed one to see certain things. There would be no brushing them off now. The males certainly seemed happy about it, even though they were wearing nothing but loincloths themselves. The village was in desperate need of food, clothing, and shelter. Better start with clothing first, I figured. The biggest issue of all, however, was where the heck we were gonna keep all these guys. The wolf-hobgob pairs seemed to be sharing households with each other by now, not that they had houses, so it was really more the hobs using the wolves as blankets. The lack of clothing was killing me, but housing also needed some attention. So, what now? I gathered the entire population around me. We had a heap of issues to tackle, but I had something even more important to tell them. We needed to hammer out the rules of this village. At the core, I had 3 rules in mind, 3 guiding principles I wanted to be sure to have them follow. Everything else, I imagined they could figure out. Everyone here, all right, I have some rules to give to you. 3, to be exact. The bare minimum I want all of you to follow. And so I laid out my standards. 1. Do not attack human beings. 2. Do not fight among your friends. 3. Do not look down upon other species. That's pretty much it. Stick to those rules as much as you can, all right. I figured I'd leave the assignment details to Rigurd. Rigurd, I hereby appoint you, Goblin Lord. It will be your job to keep this village well run and well governed. In other words, I tossed everything onto his lap. As hard as possible. I was expecting some blowback, but why yes, Sir Rimuru. I promise you that I, Rigurd, will devote myself body and soul to this vital post. He was sobbing tears of joy again. Fair enough. Let the king reign, not govern. Or at least let him bark out orders now and then, and leave him alone otherwise. Now we don't have to worry about food since we can gather fruit from forest and hunt animals for meat. Problem is clothing, shelter. So I asked Rigurd about it. An answer was, yes. There are some people I know that we've had dealings with several times. Perhaps they could supply clothing that could fit our needs. In fact, with their skills, they might know how to build homes as well. I see, I replied. It wouldn't hurt to talk to them. What did you pay them with, though? Money? No, Sir Rimuru. We do have some currency that we confiscated from adventurers, but that remains in storage. Instead, we have obtained the materials we need via either barter or short-term work. Rigurd, oh, so who are these guys? Rimuru, they are known as dwarves. Rigurd, dwarves, the infamous smithing race. I gotta check 'em out. And while the loincloth crisis had captured most of my attention, something had to be done about their defensive capabilities. Their armor provided no more protection than tatters, and they couldn't even use it, because it didn't fit anymore. It was certainly an issue, and tackling it right now would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll try visiting them. Can you make the arrangements for me, Rigurd? Rimuru, of course, Sir Rimuru. I'll have everything for your journey by tomorrow afternoon. As he'd so boldly proclaimed a day earlier, Rigurd had everything I needed that afternoon. He had even chosen the team members for my expedition into the Dwarven Kingdom already. Once I picked up my luggage, Ranga eagerly allowed me onto his back. I boinged myself up and nestled into his fur. There was a lot more fuzz than I'd thought, and it sure did wonders for comfort. I braced my body with sticky thread to keep from falling. Not having any arms or legs was a real pain at times like these, but at least I had the skills to do something about it. Gotta use the tools you have on hand. I had actually been practicing a bit with my silk during the off hours. I want to recreate an attack where I use my silk to use lightning quick whip strike and cut my enemy before they know what cut them. I didn't know if I could yet, exactly, but I had time. Practice makes perfect. For a goblin on foot, it would apparently take around 2 months to walk to the Dwarven Kingdom. We would be largely following the Great Emeld River, which flowed through the forest, up to its source in a mountain range that held the settlement we sought. The kingdom was situated at the base of the mountains, in the upper reaches of the Great Emeld. A beautiful hub of civilization, by the sound of it, built into a gigantic natural cavern. That was the Dwarven Kingdom. So we followed the plan, tracing the Great Emeld River's route northward. It certainly kept us from getting lost. I had a map in my brain anyway, just in case. We had a guide with us, Gobda, who apparently ran a trip of his own to the kingdom once, so we followed his lead, and I took up the rear. We wound up running, and running some more for around half the day. Talk about tough. As the group took their evening meal at the end of the second day, I decided to ask Gobda about the Dwarven Kingdom we were headed toward. Why yes, sir. It is officially known as the Armed Nation of Dworgen. Their leader is known as the Heroic King, and, according to Gobda's account, the current king was Gazel Dwargo, third in his line from the original. A great hero, one whose might and presence made the elder dwarves recall his grandfather in his younger years, but also an intelligent one who ruled his realm with a steady, even hand. A living hero, in a way. It had been 1,000 years since Gurin Dwargo, the first heroic king of the dwarves, established this kingdom. Since then, his descendants had carried on his will, preserving and developing his people's history, culture, and technical skill. The way the Dwarven Kingdom was starting to sound from these conversations, I couldn't wait to arrive. Exactly 3 days after we began our journey, we reached the grasslands at the foot of the Canots. The city truly was beautiful, chiseled into the vast mountain cavern, a natural fortress created by nature. It was the armed nation of Dworgen in all its mighty glory. To be continued.